Mr. Belmont, if I could have a second.
Yes, Mrs. Vance.
To those of you out there and those of you watching, I want to take a moment to address my conduct at last month's board meeting. The unprecedented tenor and tone of public comments left me really rattled and upset, and in the wake of that, I lost my composure, which some of you heard, and to those who I offended, I sincerely apologize. Thank you, Mr. Belmont.
May I have a motion to accept the minutes of the November 10th work session? Mr. Yeager, second. Mr. Pascal? All in favor? May I have a motion to accept the minutes of the November 18th regular board meeting? May I have a motion to accept the minutes of the November 18th regular board meeting? Mrs. Marcus, second. Mr. Pileski? All in favor? Every month we have a video presentation of the online art gallery. December's gallery exhibit is entitled 2020 Gets Coal. Could you please play the clip?
The Byrne-Seidemann Gallery is proud to present December's online gallery exhibit entitled 2020 Gets Coal. While every year typically has a few bad moments, the past 12 months have contained far too many. From the COVID-19 pandemic, the Australian wildfires, and the recent passing of beloved Jeopardy host Alex Trebek, 2020 has found itself on the bad list. This month, the Byrne-Seidemann Gallery has brought together a variety of Lynbrook artists to give 2020 coal. A few weeks ago, an open call went out to all our local artists to submit charcoal drawings for this month's show. The response was great. 2020 Gets Coal features over 20 charcoal drawings submitted by Lynbrook students in grades 6 through 12, community members, alumni, and staff. This includes 3 of Lynbrook's finest alumni, including Lindsay Ostroff, Sammy Ratner, and LHS's own Mr. Lantini, who helped give 2020 the coal it deserves. Each work of art has carefully been rendered in compressed and vine charcoal. All the participants have varying ability levels and experience with the medium. The artwork on display also varies in subject matter and includes drawings of still lifes, animals, botanicals, and portraits that all tell 2020 it has been bad. Please take a moment to enjoy 2020 Gets Coal by visiting the Byrne-Seidemann Gallery online exhibit by clicking the tab on the high school page. We wish everyone a happy and healthy new year. Hopefully 2021 finds itself on the nice list.
Very well narrated, Mr. Kunz. We're lucky enough to welcome 2 new teachers to the district, a long-term substitute reading teacher at West End, Alyssa Rower, and a long-term substitute science teacher at North, Robert Gurillo. Moving on to presentations, Dr. Burak.
Sure, thank you. This month we would like to do some student recognitions. Every year, you know, we're very proud of our science research students. Most of us cannot pronounce any of the work that they title as far as their research is concerned, so it never ceases to amaze us the amount of hours and the attention that they pay to research for something that they have a true interest in, and all of their work really should be recognized. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and a lot of hours. So this evening, we'd like to just recognize the following students for submitting applications for the science competition, the Regeneron Science Talent Search. And we have Nita Ajmal, Sheen Alfred, Alexandra Fox, Heather Horowitz, Ryan Marioni, Matthew Medrano, Dylan Moreta, Catherine Pastiglione, Erin Quinlan, Logan Roberts, and Ashley Roth. So congratulations to all of those students, and I hope they do well. And I have sent Mr. Vasalico some Panera cookie cards to you so that you can enjoy a sweet treat in the upcoming month. The other recognition I'd like to do is a little holiday kindness. It's always nice to recognize the students who have academic achievements. As you know, in the past, we've done students who have musical achievements, arts, any type of the arts. But good old kindness goes a long way as well, and we can't forget the students who just do random acts of kindness. And I think those are the acts that we're really especially proud of, because no one has asked them to do that. They're not getting it. They're not expecting any special recognition. They just do things out of the goodness of their heart. So information came my way that there was a family in town, and they were, trying to put up their holiday decorations, and 3 of our middle school students, just one day, went over to their house and just decided to help them decorate their house for the holidays, to give them a little extra hand, because, some things are high on the house, and the kids helped. So with that being said, out of the kindness of their hearts, Dominic Fasano, Jack LaBarber, and James Gillis helped out a neighbor in need. So we congratulate those students for being so kind, and I have sent, go ahead. And I have sent Panera cookie cards to them as well, even though they weren't expecting that. So Mr. Fallon will be distributing those to them. So congratulations, kids. That's it.
Mr. Paskoff, correspondence to the board?
This month, we received an email from a parent regarding quarantine letters, an email from a parent regarding return to school, an email from a parent regarding intramurals, an email from a parent regarding staffing issues, an email from a parent regarding mental health issues, 5 emails from parents regarding the November 18th board meeting and board members, an email from a parent regarding Phase 3 commitment survey, an email from a parent regarding community service, a thank you from a retiree for her time in Lynbrook, and an acknowledgement of a sympathy card. That's.
Thank you, Mr. Paskoff. Moving on to report from trustees. Mr. Yeager, do you want to comment?
Yes, yesterday we had a policy committee meeting with myself, Mr. Plesky, Ms. Hanson, and Dr. Burek. And we reviewed several of our policies throughout the district, and we looked at language to include equity and inclusivity. And we are hoping that by next board meeting, we'll be able to have a first reading. So it was a productive meeting, and hopefully we'll have that ready for next meeting.
I'd like to, tomorrow night I will be attending a Zoom meeting for Nassau BOCES budget presentation. It's not the budget presentation itself, it's more of an orientation to how they present the budget. Also, this time of year it's sort of upsetting this time of year when we don't have concerts to say we went to, we don't have sporting events to say we went to, we don't have plays to say we went to, and next year I'd like to go to these events. So I'm asking the community to please, please, please be smart during the upcoming holiday season, and you might have to make some sacrifices. I know we made a sacrifice. We usually go to New Hampshire to visit my mother-in-law and all my in-laws at Thanksgiving, and we did not go this year. I asked the community to please do the same, so next year at this time we could all talk about all the events, all the pleasurable events that we went to during the past month.
Thank you, Mr. Paskoff. Moving on to new business. Every year we meet with the PTA Council. We extend an invitation to them. Do we still want to do that this year? We'll probably have to do that by Zoom. Is the board encouraged you doing that? I see one of the dates we have available, I think, is January 19th. So Dr. Barrett, could you send that invitation out and extend that? We'll work on the details later on for that. Thank you. And Dr. Barrett, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is community service. As you know, when the pandemic hit last year in the spring, the board made a decision at Mr. Reynos's request if we could forego or waive the community service obligation of our students, because it was just an unsafe time for students to go out and perform those goods as a requirement. So Mr. Reynos has asked again this year, and because it's still to send kids out, if we don't want to be responsible for sending kids out to do things that obviously, if kids do things on their own, like this random act of kindness that I just announced, that's great, and we would promote that. But as far as making it a requirement for a school obligation, we are once again going to waive the community service. I just want to share, though, that there are students who are working towards a silver cord by accumulating hours. We're still going to honor that. We will still accumulate those hours if the students produce that, because we will not hinder the student's ability to earn that silver cord upon graduation. Next thing, task force update. It's a monthly thing that I do, some type of a COVID update. So, I know Mr. Paskoff just mentioned about making smart choices. I do want to praise and thank the community. Last month, I made an announcement that our numbers were actually pretty high in comparison to some of the other districts around us, that the social gatherings that were taking place were causing an uptick, that the state health department had been in contact with me. Well, only a month later, I'm very pleased, and I just want to praise everyone because everyone is doing the right thing right now. If you're suspect, if there's any chance that you could be a direct contact, people are quarantining, and that has truly helped us. So I do want to formally and publicly praise this community for doing all of the right things. If you're following our dashboard, you've seen an increase in some of the numbers, but we've been able to not have to quarantine additional students because those who actually tested positive were already home because they were doing the right thing and they were quarantining. So I just want to thank everyone. It really shows teamwork and cooperation that we're all out to help each other and keep each other safe. You can continue to watch the dashboard. If you notice if a student is remote, you may just see the number increase, but I'm not necessarily sharing that information. And as you know, in last Friday's bulletin, I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice on the phone. And I'm trying not to inundate you with additional phone calls. So now I'm sending some emails. If there's no impact on a school, if it has to close or anything, I'm sending emails just to keep you posted. So I just want to make sure I communicate that to everyone. The next task force update is we have received word that the anticipated date of delivery for the extra desks that we ordered for the elementary schools is December 15th. So that's the ETA for that. Our goal is to have the elementary students who are on green and chose to switch their learning model. We're hoping to get you back to in-person learning before the Christmas break, before that December break. As soon as the desks arrive, we're going to try to do a quick turnaround and get those students in so we can have some transition time before the break so they can get acclimated to their new classroom. Secondary level students have already been returning, so we were able to accomplish all of that. The numbers that came in after the final commitment were actually much lower than the initial survey that we had done, so we were able to accommodate all of those students, as well as the students with special needs and at-risk students. The Phase 4 now, the reopening Phase 4 met last week, and we shared that we were able to bring back all of those students on the elementary level, and that the numbers were lower than we anticipated. We continued our discussion on the plan to return all students to in-person learning every day. One of the issues raised was lunch periods, because obviously if we have more students in, we have to worry about our lunch spaces because those are spaces where we don't have barriers, we don't have masks, and the students would be eating. So that is something that we need to consider, and our district physician was there also and shared some information about ventilation. So we're still further discussing the whole lunch and what our vision of what the classroom is going to look like when we return all students so that we can prepare properly for that. So more discussion is going to take place. We have another meeting next week set up, and we will plan accordingly. We will keep moving with that. As we approach the winter season, the other thing I want to share is that we're hoping not to have a bad winter season, but I would just like to announce that if we do have the need for a snow day, and I'm hoping that people will welcome this, we just think kids at this point need to be kids. And a snow day should be a snow day, that we're not going to use the first 2 snow days for any remote learning. Everyone needs a screen break. We need our kids to get out and play. So we have discussed this actually with the union, so in cooperation, we all respect the fact that kids need to be kids. So if we have to take 2 snow days, we will use those 2 snow days as real snow days, and then we will revisit how we're going to use any further additional days.
And those 2 days don't extend or change, they're built into our schedule.
But we have actually 4 contingency days built into this year's calendar, which is good.
And those extend off to the, those are used, if not utilized, that's part of the Memorial Day weekend vacation?
One of them happens to be the Thursday, so it's still a 4-day
Right.
Memorial Day weekend.
So as of now, the idea is to give 2 school days. If we have to consider what to do for the third, that's something that's still to be considered.
Right,
Okay.
correct. Okay. The other item I would just like to share is the testing update. I know last month I gave some information about that. Tonight, the board is actually approving a resolution to approve a contract. We are contracting services with a company called ATC. It's around the clock. Should the district fall into a yellow zone that it requires testing, ATC will be the vendor to supply us with staff to conduct the testing. I'm going to have more information in this Friday's bulletin about that testing, and to let everyone know that next week I'm going to be sending a letter out with more information about the testing, and to try to get in advance an idea of who is willing to participate in the testing. We want to make sure that we can truly identify the 20% before we are put in a yellow zone. We're hoping we don't, but we have to prepare for that. After that consent is a district consent. We just want to get an idea from that. If you are a family who is willing to volunteer for this testing, any follow-up information will be a consent from ATC and a request for insurance information and whatnot, but you'll get that after the fact as it comes closer to the time when we may have to be tested because we do fall into a zone. So there will be more information coming. I'll put it in this Friday's bulletin, and you'll get a full letter and a consent form next week.
Now, could that be considered another unfunded mandate from the state? Is there any reimbursement for the state for our cost in that?
Well, no, we're contracting with a third party, so there is no cost to the district.
Okay. When you say we're contracting, who's paying the,
No, there's no cost to the district. It's through insurance.
so let's say
Through
we have a student
insurance.
who has no insurance?
So if a student doesn't have insurance, and that will be in additional information that's going to be sent out, but if a family does not have insurance, you do have to supply your social security number to this vendor, and then they will seek reimbursement for, it's $100 a kit, actually. They will seek reimbursement through the CARES Act to cover that. But there should be no cost to anyone.
Right, I guess the other thing which we may not know, the problem is the insurance companies that are picking up this cost, but insurance companies sometimes only allow 1 test per family member per month. So if someone needs a multiple test and so forth, is ATC going to pick up that cost if they have to test the same students again because we're in the orange or
Well,
yellow?
we're hoping that we don't have to test the same students again for that. I know we raised that question last time because of insurance. If we're going to try to only test 1 student per month, to not fall into that issue. But just to give people an idea of what kind of a test, it is going to be the PCR test, the swab test, not a cheek. I know that people are talking about the cheek, but it is the swab. But it's a pediatric version, so it's not the version that goes all the way up. That's a very uncomfortable version of the test. It's not, I know we were discussing it at the PTA council meeting this morning. It's not a rapid test. It's the regular PCR test, so just to clarify that.
Dr. Burek,
Yes.
would all the testing have to be done through ATC? Like if a student had a test on their own randomly the day before and came with a negative result, would that be okay, or it has to be through ATC?
So good question. You do not have to. A family can go to their own family doctor, you can go to anything, but it does have to be within that 2-week testing period. So it can't be, oh, I got tested 4 days ago. It has to be during the time period that we had to test.
Which is kind of key, Ellen, because some of the insurance carriers will give you a multiple test, but not from the same provider. So if you go to ATC and then some reason you have an exposure within those 2 weeks, you want to go to a different provider, and hopefully you'll get covered by your insurance carrier that way.
Correct.
But it has to be a PCR test, not a
Yes.
rapid.
Yes. Okay. And Dr. Belekas, curriculum update?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Burek. I know that one of the questions that we've all been asking, I think, since all this began is what would be the impact on the COVID pandemic on learning. So in order to look at that and study that, I put together a presentation of our reading and math results, and we did get some mixed results here. I know that there's been some information that's been put out by other districts and companies about what they saw as the COVID slide. In Lynbrook, we use something called the FastBridge exams. They are standardized adaptive exams for both math and reading. And what they measure is kind of when we were in school that look like percentiles. So they look at how your students perform compared to established national norms. So these norms aren't based on this administration of the test. This is based on their history over time. So that, you know, this isn't just comparing COVID results to COVID results. This is comparing how our kids are performing compared to these nationally established norms. So if we look at the adaptive math, the A math first, Kayla, if we could switch to the next slide, please. What you can see here is that the grade 2 cohort in math actually did better than they did when they left us. What that means is we tested them in the winter. We typically test our elementary students during the fall, the winter, and the spring. Obviously, we didn't have that opportunity to test in the spring last year, so the last time that we were able to test these children was the winter. So this is our last test from the winter compared to how they did in the fall. So 15% of our students were in the above average category in the winter, 38% were now in the above average category in the fall. So that was a significant increase, which was great. On the other end, which is where, you know, we are the most concerned, because if we're going to talk about a COVID slide, these are the places and these are the students that we would be targeting for our most intensive supports. On our below average side, during the winter in second grade, we had 16% of our students. In the fall, we only had 6%. So that was actually a very positive result for second grade. For the other math results, it is not in that direction. It is slightly down. You know, in the third grade, our above average was great. We went up 20%, but our below average went up 2%. So we had 2% of children, more children that we need to service. In fourth grade, our above average did go down. We had more children in the average range, but our below average only went down again, that same 2%. In fifth grade, again, our below average went down, in this case, 8%. So we'll talk a little bit later on about the services we provide, but that did mean in math that overall, we did have to provide more services. For anybody that's doing the quick math on the PowerPoint and adding up the columns, not all columns add up to 100% because of the rounding that occurs. So the numbers may be anywhere between 98 and 102% in any of those columns. Just I don't want anybody to think that the numbers are wrong. It's just averaging. On the A reading, which is the next slide, Kayla, if we could flip over to that. I was very pleasantly surprised when we started crunching these numbers. One of the great things here, and it's pretty much across the board, our numbers were really favorable. You know, our above average group in the second grade, up 20%. Our below average group, down 7%. Our above average group in the third grade, up 5%. Our below average group, down 2%. You know, not as well in the fourth grade. On the above average, we went down 7%, but our below average went down 2%. Again, in the fifth grade, our above average went down 6%, but our below average went down 3%. So if we want to talk about what we see as a COVID slide, you know, obviously there was some impact in the math. Thankfully, it wasn't drastic and something that we couldn't handle. And in the reading, actually, we were doing better than when we left. So that was actually a very positive result. Kayla, if we can go to the next slide, please. So what we do with all of the data that we collect, you know, one of the things that Mrs. Curran does in her daytime job, I know that many of you know her as the voice of our remote school right now, but what she typically does for the district is she is our elementary curriculum specialist and also our data guru at the elementary school level. She meets with each of our building teams, so she's with the classroom teachers, our support staff, the principals, and they discuss all these data points. We don't discuss them the way we're talking about them tonight. We go student by student. And during those discussions, we are talking about each of the children's performances and how we should plan for them. If it's a student who's doing very well, we're talking about how we're going to enrich them. If we're talking about a student who's struggling, what kind of supports can we give to help them catch up and meet some of those deficits and move forward? So we do develop individualized plans for each of them. We do have supports available for those kids that are struggling. We do have math labs. We also have ELA supports. And with the reading programs, it's not only saying that you need help in reading. It's trying to figure out what specific deficits you have in reading so that we can target our programs toward your needs and help you, again, move forward and progress. And all the things that we talk about, our services are always very fluid. So if you're doing well with the services and you've caught up to grade level, we will move you in and out of services according to what we perceive as needs. And that's why we test throughout the year. One of the things that does happen in addition to our normal 3 times a year testing, if somebody is struggling, we don't wait until that next benchmark to see how you're doing. We do something called progress monitoring, which means we give interim assessments in between to make sure that our interventions are working. If our interventions aren't working the way we like them to, then we switch those interventions and try something else. So that's pretty much how all of our deficiencies have always been addressed, and we're going to continue to address what we're finding at this time very similarly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And capital projects update, Dr. Lynch.
So I'm very happy to report tonight that the bond projects, except for the high school, are pretty much complete at this point. So we were in a 3-phase project of the bond. Phase 1 was last summer for the air conditionings and the wrestling room. That was complete. Phase 2 was this year with further air conditioning in the gymnasiums and the Waverly Park elevator, which is also complete. The Waverly Park elevator does need to be inspected, but other than that, it is ready. And the high school, if you have going to ride past the high school, there's an actual building over there now. And I would encourage everyone, I'll actually be brief tonight to just tell you, go to the website. Some great pictures went up this week, some great drone shots to show you that there really is a business, so you go to the district bond information, right where all the promotional materials were, and you can see what it actually looks like.
Yep. Yes, yesterday it was, the roof was complete, which is a good sign.
And when again,
Before
Dr. Lynch?
winter.
Will that be, when do we expect the first use of that?
September.
September.
Dr. Lynch, I did want to say my daughter was home for Thanksgiving, and for a lot of the kids, the recent graduates, this was their first time back. She goes to college in Virginia, so she hasn't been around, and she was gobsmacked by the building. She was like, so what's going on there with those 2 gold things? And
It almost doesn't look like Lynbrook High School anymore.
Like it's we see it every day, so we don't really notice. But she was very impressed.
Dr. Burek, where do we stand right now with just under 4 weeks away till the start of winter sports? Does the county stand anywhere? The state stand anywhere? Are we moving on as planned? We got basketball season starting and whatnot. Are we waiting for any sort of guideline recommendations?
High risk, basketball is high risk. So that is not right now. But we're proceeding with the low risk sports as we projected. And there's actually a letter from the athletic director on the website right now that explains all of that. I do know, I wouldn't be surprised if more information is forthcoming. We just learned there are 2 districts that actually pulled out of sports entirely. So
Amazing.
We'll watch and see if any other district, but right now Lynbrook is keeping in line with Section 8 in what it does to give our kids an opportunity to participate in sports.
Do we anticipate any indoor sports in the winter? On that whole high list, low list, so as far as
Well, bowling's
bowling's indoor.
Yeah, it's low risk. Yeah.
So we're not concerned now with the usage of the gym and the chairs and having to go through that?
Not right now.
All right, so that's good then. Which districts do we know are not having sports?
Uniondale is not having winter.
And I
East
think-
Meadow, we heard, is not having winter, and Lawrence is not having any.
Any sports in Lawrence?
Winter, spring, or fall.
Just a
Wonder what the
bunch of
coaches
the
think over there.
colleges, a bunch of the colleges have canceled their sports, winter sports seasons. But a bunch of the Division III schools and the SUNY schools have canceled their winter sports.
Thank you, Dr. Burek. Anything else on the board?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. a couple of days before the presidential election, I posted something on a personal social media page that offended some people. And to those people that I offended, I want to apologize. I hope we as a community can now come together. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Paskoff. This time, we're going to move on to public comment. If anyone would like to address the board, please come to the podium, identify yourself, and whether you indicate whether you live in or out of the district, please.
Adam Callahan, resident. I just have a prepared statement from the Lynbrook Excellence in Education Foundation that I'll follow. I'm here on behalf of the Excellence in Education Foundation. With the COVID-19 pandemic impacting everyday life, 2020 has been challenging for all of us, and we want you to know how much we appreciate everyone's continued support. Like so many others in our community, the Education Foundation faces new challenges. As we adapt to these unprecedented circumstances, we remain committed to enhancing the quality of the experience for all students in the Lynbrook Public Schools. It is because of this commitment that the Excellence in Education Foundation made the difficult decision to withhold awarding any grants at the beginning of the 2021 school year. Please understand, we did not make this decision lightly. It is our mission to ensure that all funds donated to the foundation are distributed in ways that are relevant to the needs of the students and support our mission to bring innovation to the classrooms. We reviewed the grants submitted for this school year, and while they are all inspiring, most are simply not usable in the current COVID-19 classroom environment. We remain committed to supporting and enhancing the experience of all students in our district and are hopeful that 2021 will bring the start of a new school year where your generous donations to the foundation will be able to put to use in a meaningful way. We've decided to switch from a once-a-year grant process to a rolling application process. We will be finalizing how that system will look and at what pace, but we will begin accepting applications at the start of the 2021 calendar year and hope to start processing applications on a monthly basis throughout the school year soon after. We have reached out to the previous applicants and will be resubmitting their applications. Thank you for understanding.
Thank you, Kay. Kay, want to say the website again for those that might be listening and interested?
www.lynbrookef.org. Thanks, Seth.
Thank you. Seeing that there are no more questions for the board, we'll move on to superintendent's recommendations. As we move into recommendations, this will be our last meeting until after the holidays. Our next meeting will be January 13th. So we obviously hope everyone will have a happy and healthy holidays, maintain the excellent job of social distancing. We know some may be a little more challenged or difficult once the holidays come, but hopefully we can maintain that, and our surrounding communities do as well, so we can get back to continuing the good work of the district when we come back after the holidays. I'd like to ask for consent agenda on resolutions 2012-C1 through 2012-C10, 2012-NC1 through 2012-NC3, and 2012-G1 through 2012-G21. May I have a motion, please? Mrs. Marcus, second, Mrs. Hanson, all in favor? I'd like to have a motion to accept the consent agenda. Mr. Paskoff, second, Mr. Yeager, all in favor? Thank you very much. That conducts our business for the evening. Everyone enjoy the holidays. Stay happy and stay healthy.
Have a nice, safe holiday.